We are back, guys. We're back for another Sunday video. We do this every week. We talk setups, we talk ideas, and we talk trade ideas specifically for the week ahead. Welcome back. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit the thumbs up button, the subscribe button, all that good stuff. We're here providing free trading content throughout the week. And today we've got a lot of things to cover going into this week. It is Sunday, of course, and we are going to be talking a little bit about the US dollar to start out. Now, last week was a bit interesting. Last week we had jobs numbers. Now, jobs numbers were a bit better than expected in the terms of more jobs created. However, unemployment stayed the same at around 3.6%. Now, why am I telling you this and why does this matter? You're like, Nick, I only trade price action. Why do I care about the news and the fundamentals? Well, here on the channel, I'm going to be transparent with you. I don't trade purely technical. I trade in combination with what's really driving the currency market, which is, of course, news, which is, of course, fundamental analysis. The actual underlying value of these currencies is what is going to change. Price can do a lot of things in the short term. We're going to do a little bit of a price action analysis as well as fundamental analysis for today's video. So buckle up. Let's get into it. Okay, so the dollar, right? We've been bearish the dollar. We have been here at A1 Trading, myself and Frank, we've been a bit more focused on the downside for the US dollar. Now, specifically, the reason why is that during this time, we had just an incredibly hawkish Fed, and we still do, but remember that markets are forward thinking. They're looking into the future to see what's happening next. And if the Fed has sort of been incredibly hawkish and then they start sort of, not necessarily following it up with more strength, more hawkishness to follow, right? There's a little bit of a play there where we think that, okay, things may have gotten a bit overdone on the dollar and there is room to come down. We have started to see that. If you take a look at the daily chart very quickly, looking at the US dollar, we think that a reasonable place to target would be a move down to 101. Okay, 101 is the starting point. It's this structure point here, which I did not mean to do the horizontal. Let me do the, I like the horizontal ray. So we think that a good targeting price for the dollar would be to come down to an area of value around 101 to 100. So in this zone, we think that that's probably where it's headed next. And so for me, I'm looking at this, I'm saying, okay, I think we're probably headed down there. So how do we trade that accordingly? We won't trade DXY. The dollar index is just the index. We will actually go take a look at some individual currency pairs, which we'll focus on today with a bit more short-term dollar bearishness. Again, targeting at the extreme levels down to around 100 on the dot, looking at the US dollar index. We'll see if we can get a bearish move here this week, which also, just before we jump into some US dollar crosses, means that there could be some more upside on the S&P 500. Specifically, for those of you guys who are watching the indices, we're going to look out for a break above this previous resistance as a trigger to potentially look for more longs to add to the position that we've already got. We've been long. We've made some money on the long side. Frank was trading this thing on the long side inside of the group. In fact, let me show you guys just so you know I'm not just making that up. Here is Frank's recent trades. So he moved stops to break even. Still in this trade, still floating a bit of profit here. So again, you can see all the trades, by the way, taken inside of our group, which I should say we are doing a sale right now. If you'd like access to see all the trades, the trade alerts that we're sharing, Frank, myself, we also have Patrick and Ivan. We share lots of different trades throughout the week. If you would like to join that, make sure to use the link down below in the description with that promo code YTVIP for a massive 30% off sale right now. So take advantage of that. You can see all the trades we're taking. Speaking of myself, EURCAD, I am still in this. Let me see. Oh, I'm not logged into my broker here, unfortunately, but I'm short EURCAD. You can see the trade that I've been updating inside of the group. I think at the end of the week, I was floating around $450. So here's EURCAD, just a quick view of it before we look at some USD pairs. Still bearish going into the week, seeing if we can break through the previous week's low. For those of you guys who are already members, that's what we're looking out for. We're looking for a break of this structure this week. If that happens, we will look to secure more profits on the move. And for those of you guys who are already in the group, like I said, look out for the update. I'll share it right here inside of the Nick's Trades Trade Alert section. Okay. So to the US dollar crosses, let's talk a little bit about Euro USD. Okay, so Euro dollar. People asking, Euro dollar, bit of a mixed one recently. What's up with the Euro dollar? Well, here's the thing. For me, Euro dollar bullishness is not necessarily a bad idea, but I would say it's also a bit capped. I'm not super bullish on the euro itself. In fact, as we go along in today's video, I'll talk to you guys about some pairs that I am more interested in being bullish on, but there is a fair point to be made about potentially seeing Euro USD come a little bit higher, perhaps this week. Now, if we zoom in just a little bit, we're looking for potentially a swing back up to some higher levels of resistance. You've got some levels here to talk about. I think that once you get up into these areas, though, you have to be very careful because that's where you might start seeing some pretty strong bearish reactions. So for those of you guys who are euro dollar bulls, we're watching for a breakout of this point here. We saw that as a level of resistance last week. Any break and retest potentially going higher. Again, based off of our short-term dollar bearish thesis. We'll see if we're correct about that. But yeah, looking for a break above 107.75, let's call it. That would be a good point. If we saw a candle like this, for example, we saw a green candle come above that area. Any sort of dips, we're looking for retest buys with the idea being something like this. Let's say, stops within the middle of this range. We have identified a pretty good significant range here, right? Usually what I'll do when I take a trade like that is I'll look for something like this where I can target at least 2 to 1, right? And we do have a good, pretty area, a nice little area of targeting up there, looking at the resistance on the higher time frames. And then, targeting as a stop loss the middle of this range. Now, looking left, we're just assuming here for a second. We have to see this thing break higher, but using structure, we'll have to reevaluate the stop, but that at least gives you a 2.29 to 1. That's not a bad trade idea. I personally like it. I'll look out for something like that this week. Again, big first sign would be to see strength above this level of resistance, show the sellers are beaten at this area before looking to potentially get long for more upside. That would be my personal take on euro dollar. Okay, on to the next one. Another one, very popular currency pair, the pound USD. And we are bullish on the pound dollar. We'll be seeing if we can get a little bit more of a pullback. We think that there could be some good value here. Frank and I both like this pair long. We have the 38.2% retracement as a potential point to start looking for longs. With honestly not I'm not totally shied away from the idea of buying it on a deeper retracement here. Now I want to show you guys something kind of cool here. If we take a look at some correlation coefficients, and this is something that we've been playing around with more on the channel recently, although we've been using correlation for a long time. You take a look at the S&P 500 and you correlate it between the two of these things. Check this out. There has actually been a pretty strong correlation with the pound USD and the S&P 500. So as the S&P 500, we expect it to potentially rally, right? We expect this thing to continue to be strong until further notice. That's our bias, at least right now. We take a look at something like pound USD. Maybe we want to trade that in sympathy. Notice that most of the time this thing has a positive correlation to the S&P 500. What that's telling us is that when the pound goes up, so does the S&P. When the S&P 500 goes up, so does the pound, and vice versa. When they go down, they are usually, at least right now, following a similar price action direction. Okay, so with that said, when we take a look at this, we're looking for potential bullishness around the 38.2 with perhaps a more conservative, deeper retracement area at the 61.8, though we'll have to watch to see if we can get a reaction off of this level, as that's our first area of interest. I think that at least in terms of a risk-to-reward factor, if you like the pound USD long, I think you've got some decent risk-to-reward just looking at a move to the previous high, but really that's not what we're after here. What we generally focus on is the big movers, right, of where things could potentially go. So we take a look at supply on the higher time frames. You really don't have much of a stopping point. I guess you could make an argument there's a bit of resistance here. So even there, I mean, you're looking at pretty good risk to reward. That's almost a 4 to 1. If you went for the extreme high right here, that's like a 4 to 1, right? Just about a 4 to 1. So we'll see if that idea comes into play. It's very, very close to current price. So I am not afraid of potentially dipping my feet into some pound longs this week. And I think it's time we take a look at the Edge Finder, see what's going on here in terms of top setups. We do have Euro Yen coming out at the top of the list for bullishness this week, which is very interesting. So maybe we should take a look at Euro Yen here in just a moment. We also have the S&P 500 still remaining a buy rated on the Edge Finder. So that's kind of cool. We've got US 30 up there, of course, the stock market as well. UK 100, US oil, which is actually an interesting one. We just added US oil, by the way. Oil is now officially on the Edge Finder. We have now 2 commodities. So if we take a look at commodities, we have gold and oil on our system, which is scanning for ideas based on the different metrics we have across the top. So yeah, let's take a quick look. And just before I forget, remember that there is a big sale going on the Edge Finder right now as well. This is our proprietary market software that we have spent thousands and thousands thousands of dollars building this tool. It allows you to basically take a look. For example, we could pull up Euro Yen here in a second. And let's pull it up on the chart as well so we can get an idea. So Euro Yen, calling it for more buys. In fact, this was a idea last week, was yen weakness and looking for things like CAD yen and Euro Yen longs. That has played out really well so far. We'll see if we can get some sort of pullback. Now, here's a look at Euro Yen in terms of the Edge Finders metrics. So what it does is it takes several different factors. For example, Euro Yen is the asset, score of 5. What does that score mean? Well, the higher the score, the more of a buy. The lower the score, the more of a sell. If something comes in with COT data of +1, what that means is that the yen has, in terms of institutional positioning, is very short biased, whereas the euro is sort of mixed. So that gives us a slight bias towards selling yen and buying euro. Retail sentiment. This is what the crowd is doing. If we know that the crowd data is telling us that most people are short, we want to avoid being short ourselves because that is a really risky game to play. You're going with the crowd, and the crowd tends to lose money. Seasonality. Take a look at this. We've got the month of June as slightly positive, not too intense or anything like that, but a bit of positive historical bias there on the euro yen. The trend reading here is strong. Obviously, we can all see there's a very, very strong trend taking over on euro yen right now. The tide is shifting for sure. GDP growth and interest rates favor the euro, whereas inflation and unemployment favor yen. So overall, it gives us a +5. Lots of different factors stacking in favor of more bullishness, and that's been the case for the last week or so. So lots of good opportunities there on the euro yen. So euro yen to me is a potential buy if we can get a nice little pullback to areas like, let's see, hold on, give me 1 second here. We'll do some support and resistance basics. If we get a pullback this week to something like this, I actually like this a lot. Euro yen could be a nice buy pickup, especially if we draw some fibs. Start getting interested around the 38.2% retracement. That could be expanded just to this sort of area here. And you can see where we're going with this. This looks pretty good to me on a pullback buy this week. We'll look out for that. If we have a first half of the week, for example, negative for the euro yen, maybe a little bit of yen strength or euro weakness, potentially looking for continuation plays on this pair. Now we scroll out, we see where this thing could potentially go. You can see we don't really have a lot of recent resistance, and it actually is testing a really key spot here. In fact, we'll talk about this scenario number 2 in just a moment, but any pullback, again, to this area to me would be potentially a buy with at least a 2-to-1 in terms of risk to reward. So if we were to target underneath as a stop loss, underneath that little pivot low, let me zoom in so you guys can see that a little bit better. You know, maybe a pullback with stops below that structure. And then, of course, previous high is a good start. That's already a 3.5-to-1, right? Meaning that if we risked 100, we would be potentially making 350 if we were correct about that move. And then continuation from there, you know, you could play, the way I like to trade is with trailing stops. So I would just be following price action as long as it wants to go, with the idea of a potential breakout even higher. Okay, so scenario number 2 on euro yen, another idea that I really like is the fact that we've basically come through and broken through at the end of last week this previous high, right? So that previous high, let's go ahead and annotate that for a second just so we have that on the screen. Previous high. The cool thing here is that that previous high was actually broken towards the end of last week. We saw this thing break out to the upside. And now for me here, the next idea would be if this thing continues, if we just see the start of the week just become bullish, right? We mentioned 2 ideas. If the start of the week is bearish, we could look to pick up some value around this area. That would be my opinion. And then vice versa, if we see the start of the week be strong, right? We could look for second half of the week pullbacks to this area. So we're setting up ideas here, and that's the whole point of these Sunday videos, is to set up theory, set up ideas of where we could be looking to enter trades depending on what the market chooses to do. We have no say over what the market's going to do. Sometimes you'll get people who say, oh, well, the market is now going to do this, and then the market's then going to do that, and then, you know, all this and that. I don't claim to know what the market's going to do next. All I claim to try and do is look for pullback setups with good risk to reward and let the market decide what they want to do. If the market wants to keep trending, then awesome. We're going to try and join the ride and hold on for dear life. That's, you know, that's going to be my approach. Anyways, we like euro yen. That's a potential long setup. Let's take a look at the news for a second here for the week. I just forgot to mention this earlier. Let's take a quick gander here at what we have for the week ahead. We have some euro red folders here on Thursday. And then it seems like the big one also is CAD unemployment numbers and USD CPI on Friday. So Friday should be a very intriguing week, to say the least. We probably will see a bang on Friday. Lots of volatility between these pairs. Watch things like USD CAD, USD yen, euro dollar, euro CAD, things like that. We have a lot of volatility with those currencies there on Friday. And then Tuesday, we've got the cash rate, so the rate statement, which is actually intriguing very much for the Australian dollar. The Aussie dollar is expected to raise rates this week up to 0.75%. That's a big jump, and it will be interesting to see. There probably won't be any surprises. Usually with these, they are not very surprising. But to be fair, in May of 2022, we were expected to get a 0.25%, and we got 0.35%, which was very bullish for Aussie pairs. So we'll watch out to see if there's any interesting patterns like that on Tuesday. We will be keeping you guys updated on that with on the channel, or perhaps on the second channel, A1 Trading. If you didn't know already, I actually have 2 YouTube channels. My channel, of course, the Trader Nick channel, and then we also have my company's channel, A1 Trading, where we do basically market coverage every day with our team in the office. So check that channel out if you haven't already. Again, A1 Trading on YouTube. We would appreciate a subscribe. We're at like 13,000 subscribers, so help us get up to 20. That'd be really cool. Anyways, continuing on, we got some more setups to talk about here. Let's go back to the Edge Finder for a moment and see if there's anything else on the scanner. Again, S&P 500, we're calling for more bullishness on the stock market, so we'll keep tabs on that. Again, I'm very interested myself in that. Euro pound, that's an intriguing one. I have not seen one. That one's new to the watch list. Let's go analyze euro pound here for a second, which popped up as a potential buy here for the week ahead. Let me see if I can just click this, and we'll go over to take a look at euro pound here for a moment, and I'll pull it up on the screen here so we have that as well. So euro pound. Okay, calling for bullishness here, and this is very interesting. So in terms of the Edge Finder, COT data is pointing towards bearish GBP, bullish euro. Okay, retail sentiment, the crowd is short on this pair according to the data we have. 62% of the retail traders tending towards shorting the pair. So that's a bullish signal because we know that the crowd tends to lose money. Seasonality, month of June. Look at this, you guys. The month of June is very strong for euro pound. So we should not ignore that. That's an interesting one to watch out for. Trend reading, we have a strong upward trend. That's pretty obvious. GDP growth and unemployment and interest rate divergence a bit favor the pound, whereas inflation numbers, lower inflation in the European area compared to that 9% for the UK. Okay, so back to the chart here for a second. Looking at euro pound here would be very interesting to see if we can break through these previous highs. Let's go full screen here for a second. We'll take a look at this one. So yeah, look at this. So if we can break through some of these levels here, well, let's go ahead and mark this as supply for what it is. If we break these levels, again, setting up for the week ahead, that's our whole goal with these videos, break above any sort of closure outside, pullbacks look like ideas. Now, I just highlighted both. So you might be saying, Nick, well, what the heck does highlighting both pullback zones mean? Well, oftentimes, if you guys are familiar with my style of trading, you've been watching for a while on the channel, what you'll note me do is I very often will mark 2 ideas on a chart rather than just one. And the reason I do that is because I use pretty tight stop loss orders. So when I'm looking at an idea, right, I understand that there's a good chance that I could be potentially stopped out and may need to re-enter. I have no problem re-entering. I take re-entries all the time, and a lot of times they're perfectly great trades to take on the first time. Sometimes they're perfectly good on the second try. I'm not trying to say I always win on every single trade, right? The reality is, like, I'll take a trade like this, and let's say that it pops down, grabs my stop, and then shoots down to my level again, and then it works out. Right? Sometimes one trade's going to be a wrong, one time's going to be a right. But sometimes I take this first trade and it just shoots up in my direction, right? The idea was right. It's just sometimes timing is very, very difficult in trading. So for me, I focus less on trying to be perfect all the time with my timing, and I'll be fairly open to the idea of re-entering. So 2 ideas here for you on euro pound. I like this thing bullish. What I love also is notice just the nice upward direction here on euro pound. We have lots and lots of higher lows, right? So for me, again, looking at this pair, I would like to see at the very least a nice closure above these levels, right? And then pullbacks throughout the week, potentially for continuation plays. Both of which, you know, I would just say stop loss relatively tight. If I was to enter, let's take this first example for the more, you know, aggressive entry. Let's say price breaks, pulls back this week. Stop loss of, what is that? Stop loss about 25 pips. That's nothing big. So potentially to gain a nice, again, if you know my actual style of trading, I don't actually use take profits. What I'll do is I'll trail stops. So I'd be looking for something like this. And as soon as I possibly could, move that stop to break even at about a 1-to-1 profit. So for example, if price comes here, pulls back and enters me into the trade at about 1 times my risk, I would take that stop loss and move it to break even so that I can't lose money on the trade from there. If then the market continues to rally, I'd trail stops, right? And just continue to do so until I get stopped out. That's how my best trades tend to be. I hold on to them for a very long time, and they end up being massive winners. I don't take them very often. I don't take huge wins out of the market every single day or week or anything like that. But every once in a while, I'd say usually once a month, I get a pretty dang good trade that pays for much, much more than the losses, as well as the break evens that I have to endure throughout the process. Now, second scenario, let's say price pops up and then pulls back intra-week, and we get something like this, right? Still stops relatively tight. This is about a 30 pip stop. If that were to come into play again, we could look to trail stops from there. Now, again, remember that if I take any trades, if any of these trades that I'm talking about, I actually choose to execute, you will see them inside of the VIP Discord. If you would like to join the VIP Discord, remember that we are doing 30% off right now if you use the link and promo code that is down below in the description. Punch in YTVIP when you check out, and you'll be able to join our community, see the trades being taken by myself and the rest of my team here, jump into the chat rooms, do our coaching webinars with Ivan, who is one of our head traders here, and so much more. If you're not already in the group, take advantage of that sale, join us there, and we will see you inside. Have a great trading week, guys. I hope this was helpful to you. Hit the thumbs up button and see you next time.